This conference will now be recorded.
Here you are. So I would like to ask to mute your microphone. Maybe switch off your camera if you don't have a good connection, and use the chat box for your questions. We have an hour, more or less an hour, for this webinar, and I will now give the floor to Maurits, who will introduce the agenda. Maurits. And then I do mute. Let me see.
So thank you, Ruud, for introducing us. I think hopefully this will work. Yes, it works, I think. I would like to welcome you very much to this webinar. So this webinar is about post-project sustainability of European networks. And this is part of a larger initiative. So our core aim is to initiate the discussions on this issue of the continuity of innovation actions and CSAs and other European projects. To initiate the discussion to get a little bit more clarity. We're not gonna solve this all by one webinar, and I also would like to welcome your discussions and your interest. The agenda is very short. I hope that we will finish in 1 hour. It might take a little bit longer. Perhaps you are enough interested to still be committed. I will give a little bit further introduction on this topic and this webinar in a moment. Then it will follow by a presentation that should have been organized by Kristina Karanikolova, but she has a problem to give the presentation, so I will give that for her. She will the presentation will have some feedback from Paolo Poscolo of DIHNET, and she will comment on some issues and some thoughts that she had looking at the presentation. The same is the case, the approach of a response on revenue models for EU networks. That's going to be done by Rudolf Vajcek. He's involved in Smarties. And the branding and communication is going to be done by Olivia Huguin. She's from Smart for Europe, but also from the DIHNET project, and she works for Blue Morpho. This response will be by Maaike Rijman from Smart for Europe. As you can see, there are 3 logos here. It's the DIHNET logo, it's the RODIN logo, and it's the Smart for Europe logo. And this webinar is a collaboration between those three projects. So that's important to notice. It is also part of a program or a strategy we now developed within the DIHNET project, which is called the Thought Leadership program. And what we do is we develop some kind of thoughts on specific issues that are overarching for all kinds of innovation actions and CSAs. And what we do is we collect knowledge, we draft a sustainability, or we draft a paper on that, we discuss that within the DIHNET platform, and also looking at a public webinar like we're doing today. That's going to be processed into a refined paper and published onto the web. And especially it is important for you to know that we also aim at giving that presentation and giving that information towards the European Commission, who will take that and perhaps build some more thoughts on it and incorporate it in their policies. So what I said was we are from the DIHNET, we are from the RODIN, so that's what you see in this slide below. We are offering the platform as DIHNET. The RODIN is coordinating and sharing the expertise, but we are also fed by the DIH Squared, Trinity, RIMA, DIH Hero, and Agrobo Food innovation actions, and the Smart for Europe CSA. So it's a nice collaboration. Looking at the topic, we are trying to get a European project like ourselves, like DIHNET, but also like DIH Squared and all the other innovation actions, and try to get them into a sustained European network. So what we see is that the European Union funded projects, they are in there for preparation and initiation of a project, and then it needs to become sustainable. And that's our core objective of this thought leadership trajectory on post-project sustainability. And before I go a little bit into detail about what is to be addressed there, I would like to make to present you this slide to make a difference between the sustainability of a European network, and which are providing the services to a large number of innovation hubs and competence centers that will provide the services, their industry services to customers. We are looking at the pan-European network and their network services. So that's what our focus is on. And how do we address that? Well, we use the business model navigator approach. It is an approach developed by Grossman, which is more or less the business model canvas, but a little bit more simple, so to say. And we find it a little bit more useful for our purposes. It distinguishes between 4 elements. It looks, of course, at what do you offer. It also looks at how that offer, how that value can be created, and who's your target customers. But it also looks at why are people going to be paying for your services. So these 4 elements are core to our approach to create a pan-European post-project sustainability for the pan-European projects. So that's basically our background. As I said, we will be finishing this thought leadership strand, so to say, with some kind of materials. This is just the early overview of the content overview of the project report that we would like to present. So you see here some backgrounds on the on what a European pan-European network is, what the business plan is, what business models are, and then you see also the branding and communication, and the structure, and some issues about financing. We will only look at this in this webinar, only look at these 2 elements. What are the services? What are the revenue models that are accompanied by those pan-European projects, and the branding and communication? And as I said, I hope that this will already inspire you with some kind of thinking about post-project sustainability, but we will also use this information, hopefully that you will create during discussions to share that with the European Commission. So that was a little bit my introduction, and I would like to go into the first set of the first part of our webinar, which is looking at the services. By the way, Christina was in charge of this, and she would have told you perhaps even more about this than I can, but hopefully I will do a good job. We will ask Paula to respond to that, so she will be the first one to respond. In the end of the meeting and during the chat boxes, please comment your ideas, your suggestions, and your questions also. So again, looking at that business model navigator, the services are about what you offer. So it's about the value proposition. And what we see is a distinction, a quite important distinction between digital innovation hubs and the European networks. So the prime mission of a digital innovation hub is to support its region. And the mission of the European network is to enhance the pan-European collaboration, interregional collaboration. And that means that the services that are to be offered to the customers is also different. Where digital innovation hubs are offering services to the region about creating a collaboration or about providing technological support to the industry or help the industry to transform technologies into business or educate them with very specific digital technology skills. The European network is much more to make the connection between the regions and to align the technological development and support that cross-country initiative and cross-country collaboration. And of course, there's also, and that's what you see in the digital, the digitizing Europe, the DEP. It is about creating the EU-wide capacities and capabilities. That's what, with regards to skills and training, the EU networks are about. So digital innovation hubs are focused on SMEs, mid-caps, and public authorities, but it's the regions where the networks are much more focused on the service providers and to create interregional connections. And we identified 4 sets of services. And these are the services. So the ecosystem services, it's about community building. It's about creating that pan-European awareness, where the business services are much more towards the collaboration, the interregional collaboration on real business. And the technology services are about the mapping of capacities and capabilities that are out there. And you can also see some ideas about the skills and training, which is also focused on the pan-European policy training, for example. I'll go a little bit more in detail about on those skills that are important for the pan-European networks. But before I do that, this is a distinction between the pan-European network skills or services and the digital innovation hub services. And on the left side, I think you recognize an overview of the services we've been developing in the last 4 years. And it makes a distinction also between the ecosystem, technology, business, and skills categories of services. But you can see that those categories are totally different at a pan-European or the European network level. So ecosystem services for networks. I already showed some ideas. By the way, there's questions about slides that if they will be made available, of course. I hope that the other ones can see the slides. Yeah, I think so. So these services are focused on building the community, EU community building, its EU strategy development, etc., etc. You can see that those innovation actions, for example, the Smart for Europe is there. They give strategic advice to the European Commission how to further develop their strategies on smart anything everywhere. The RODIN project, or even the Eurobotics, which is also a pan-European network, they are helping the Commission with further development of their working programs. So those are very concrete services that are offered by those European networks towards the European Commission. But it's also about aligning EU proposals. We know a little bit what's out there, what kind of projects are there, and those projects we can say something about, look, you should work together on this and on that. So these are just some examples for those services. The business services, something that now comes up. You can all read the information here, and I want to give a little bit more focus on the EU widening corridors. So the BOE project, which is an EU network, we are trying to develop the connection, the interregional connection between two regions, one in the less developed region and the one in the strongly developed regions. How can you work together in a structural way? That's addressed. That's supported by our activities also. So we see the collaboration between an SME and a digital innovation hub in another one. How can you make that structural? And there's a question about region. If you're a region can be seen as the NUTS2 regions. It's can also be seen as an entire country. What the distinction is the innovation ecosystem. If you're a concise, collaborative innovation ecosystem, then for me, you're more or less a region. The ecosystem services, these are the technology services. Made a mistake with the title there. That's about how to support the technological collaboration. And this is about, for example, a smarter specialization, helping regions to align their investments in RDI. And you can see that done by the JRC. And the JRC has got platforms how those regions can work together to specialize. Just an example of how you can do this. And of course, the Digital Innovation Hub catalog, it's about mapping capacities and capabilities. So that is offering the solution to find each other on a technological basis, how to collaborate. And then the skills and trainings, that's focused on making, for example, available an overview, a European overview on how organizations are offering skills training developments together and make them available on a European level. And then if you just look at the different user groups, you can make a distinction between SMEs and midcaps, service providers, regional national authorities, and the European Commission. And here you can see the long list of services that can be provided. But the problem is that if you look at those 4 different customers, they're not interested in all activities, all services. And I will not go into detail about this because it's easy to look at that at a later stage when I send you the presentation. What is important is that you understand that those services are totally different, except there's totally different needs for the services looking at those different customers. So my last slide about this, and then I can ask Paula to respond to that. Evolution of services. Yeah, you start with technological services and ecosystem services, but the business services and skill services will come at a little bit of a later stage. So Paula, perhaps I can give you the floor to respond to this presentation. And Ruud, could you?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you very much for your invitation. And I think you made a lot of progress in putting all these together. So my thoughts about when I was listening to your presentation are mostly that I think we all realize different it is to act at the Digital Innovation Hub level, at the regional level versus the European level. And during the past, I would say, 12 or even 18 months in all innovation action projects, we realized that there's a tendency of assigning standardization and alignment objectives to the networks, almost like the network needs to deal with all the soft subjects without actually entering the real business of connecting with SMEs and mid-caps. So our understanding as DIHNET is that it would be a missed opportunity if we only assign these roles to the networks. And there's an opportunity to reflect on what services can actually be better provided by the central level, by a network level, rather than a regional hub. So I think when you were putting next to each other the distinction of what is done by a network versus what is done by the Digital Innovation Hub, probably there's still some margin to make some changes on the boundaries between these regional hubs and the networks. So that's the first comment, and it's related to the scale. So scale of this organization and of their interconnections. Then my second comment is actually about the model we are currently using, the Grassman one. It's true, I agree with you, it simplifies the picture to build up a business model, but at the same time there's a risk of focusing a lot or maybe too much on the revenue aspects of a business model. And if we go back to the traditional business model canvas, that might look a bit more complicated at first. We appreciate that there are other dimensions that matters a lot to make this business model truly sustainable. And I think, to me, like it's really good to see that and realize that European digital innovation networks talks to different stakeholders that want different things from us as Digital Innovation Hub. But also, I think it's not only a matter of how differently they are willing to pay for services and what they're interested in, but it's also there are interesting differences in their competencies and capacities, and maybe there are things that can be exchanged not only with through paying, but also through other exchanges among the digital innovation hubs. So that's my these are my two main comments. The first one about the scales, the importance of scales, and the second one about the risk of focusing too much on the revenue streams and the importance of looking at competencies as well.
Well, thank you, Paula. I think it's very valuable information, because I do see that the model I present, so distinguishing the digital innovation hubs from the networks, it's quite black and white, and of course it's not always that black and white. So that's an important issue to take and to better understand how that can be done. But it also goes to the revenue model, because sustainability is about creating the revenue models. And although I really realize that the present approach towards the business model is quite simplified, and the business model canvas can, or even the mission or the mission canvas model, because that's a new one, perhaps more applicable for us kind of organizations, is important. The revenue model is something that is very often forgotten, so it needs to be addressed a little bit further. And so this is kind of a bridge towards our next part of the discussion, looking
Maurits,
at those.
There
Yes?
are 2 questions in the chat box.
Exactly. I saw there's one interesting about the region. Like what do we mean and what do we understand by regions? For instance, region. I think that's also another important. There are some digital innovation hubs that act on very broad and large areas. Others that are actually focusing only on provincial, suburban regions.
Yes, so for me, this is about innovation ecosystems. And if in an innovation ecosystem, usually it has a kind of a regional character. So people know each other a little bit, tend to work with each other, and they are in value chains together. I also know that those value chains and those ecosystems can sometimes be even on a national level. So for me, then, for example, there's even talk about Finland being one region. That could be the case. It also depends on the topic itself, I would say, because in certain topics you can distinguish a little bit between each other, and in other topics the regions are so well connected that there's a super region, so to say. So that's an important one. Looking at the European Digital Innovation Hubs strategy, which is a little bit related to this, they are looking at not 2 regions, but I also know that it's not one region. The second question, Ruud.
This exercise is linking existing projects. What is the working definition for a project, an existing regional digital innovation hub that might or might not become an EDIH, or to all the numerous projects of different kinds that evolve digital innovation hubs and key stakeholders around all the activities?
So this is not about the European Digital Innovation Hubs. This is about a network of European Digital Innovation Hubs or other service providers. It is about the pan-European networks. So it follows the approach of the 4 test to invest, skills, etc., but it takes them to another level. It takes them to the level of the pan-European inter-regional collaborations. So that's perhaps an answer to that. If there are no questions anymore, I would like to go to the next part, which is on revenue models. So looking at that approach, sorry, Paula, looking at that approach again, we are looking at the revenue model. So the first one was about the value proposition. This one is about the revenue models. And if you look at the revenue model, this is just a definition about the revenue model. It is about payment. It is about who pays for what is paid, how is paid, and how much is paid. So these elements are important to be addressed. And it's the scheme, it's the structure, how you organize this, which is important for a revenue model. So again, this is about the 4 customer groups, and there you can see that those customer groups. This is a presentation about that is presented early. This is what they really need, but then also looking at what is going to be paid for. And there you can see that certain customers are interested in some services, but they're not really willing to pay a lot for them, or even willing to pay at all for them. So an example is that the service providers, those can be digital innovation hubs, for example. They're very interested in EU-wide representation. Do they want to pay for that? No. So that's a problem with your business model, because the revenue model is very much under pressure there, and you need to find ways to deal with that. And then, if you look at the present innovation actions, this is more or less the way it's organized. So you've got a European project, and you've got the partners of that European project. The European Commission pays a lot for that. They fund the experiments and they fund the network services, and they also fund the activities of the partners. You can have some in-kind contributions back to the network to provide the network services, and all will go to the customer, the industry, the SMEs, and will do that. They will organize those services. And if you look at the value proposition, you're covering these kind of that I show, these kind of activities, these kind of services. Those are paid by this revenue model, so to say. So it's really supporting cross-border experiments. But European Commission is funding. There's some in-kind contributions from partners. It's centered around a project funding for the experiments, and it's focusing on research and innovation and cross-border collaboration, and highly focusing on, of course, the SME experiments. And that's, you could say that that's not really sustainable, because if the Commission drops out for this funding, everything will fail. So we need to come up with some different business models in that. This is we identified a series of those more revenue models that could be sustainable. This is about memberships. It's very often discussed, and what you see is that you've got members, so they're not partners anymore, but you're members, and they pay some fee to the network, and they pay for the services and they pay for the overhead. And because of the economy of scale, that a member can pay a little bit of money, but overall you can have a high value service to be offered to the members. And by having a lot of members, you also get some network contacts back. It will be applicable for a small set of services. That's what you see on the right side. And it's very much based on economy of scale for services. And it's about members to create critical mass. Because if you have a critical mass of a number of members, then you can use that economy of scale and you can attract more members. And the value proposition is a crucial thing for this. You need to be dead on for those members, offering a value to those members. And you need to have pre-investments, because otherwise you will not succeed. This is, for example, the marketplace. A second one is brokering capacities capabilities. It's about having the connection between one region and another, and the network offering a kind of a brokerage to get those two regions connected to offer the service to the industry. Again, limited number of services that they will address. It's a highly focused on the technology, but especially on the business services. And of course, there's some kind of a brokerage fee that is applicable there. The third one is initiation of collaboration. So where the first this one was about just getting the people to be in contact with each other. This is one step further. It's very specialized services, and those services are fully paid, and it can be done for members, but it can also be done by non-members. And what you do then is you charge just full cost for the services, and for the non-members you can even have a little bit more cost to be paid to the network, and you pay then for the overhead. So it's charging full cost, but you need to have a strong brand for that. And then if you look at those revenue models, these are the services that you can address with that. Again, please notice that the slides are going to be sent to you, but I would like to give the floor to Rudolf very quickly to respond to this.
Yes, thanks a lot, Moritz, for the invitation. Hello, everybody. I'm not sure that I'm actually the best one to answer the very generic question, like which revenue model is a good one for the digital innovation hubs or European digital innovation hubs as such. I can share a couple of thoughts about the revenue models we have experience with, and we are right now testing with our project. Just a quick introduction. Amiris is a consultancy company, which is based in Switzerland and in Prague, Czech Republic. And we are managing projects for more than 260 million euro. We are also helping with some proposals preparation. And very early on, as this type of organizational innovation type of project started in DG Connect with these pilot lines, and particularly photonics pilot lines, we started to be involved, and we are now involved in 4 out of the 7 pilot lines. So it's not exactly the Digital Innovation Hub, but it gives us a certain playground where we are experiencing and testing the sustainability models. Because we are also business coaches, we know that most of the problems of any small business, and this is going not to be very different, is that the biggest problem is always a customer. First, if you are too small, you don't have enough customers, then you need to customize for all customers, then you need to produce, you need to modularize for customers, and then you are looking again for new customers. So this is actually the challenge here even more highlighted, because in some of these models you presented, Moritz, are actually showing that there are 2 customers for the same service, or maybe 3 customers for the same service, and that's the particularity, I believe, in Digital Innovation Hub. And we try to simplify this as much as possible. That means going back and seeing, okay, can we serve one type of customer? Can we serve, for example, with this brokerage fee? Can we serve industries? What type of industries? If we focus purely on small ones, we will not reach sufficient numbers to have it running. If you focus on big ones, then we will becoming kind of an innovation hub for the big ones. So it's not so simple, and of course that's no surprise that there is no one size which fits all. We are right now setting associations, we are setting private companies, for profit, not for profit, for having them as a mechanism, as a legal entities which can perform these initiatives, because that's what we briefly discussed before the call. Actually, with this new offering, very likely we will see that there are no such organizations right now created. We need to enable their creation. And why we need to enable their creation is that if we want to experiment during the innovation action type of project, we can experiment either what or who. We cannot experiment really both at once. At least I don't see it in the framework of 3 years, for example. Because we want to build references, and the references has to have this solid ground already tested. Because we are committed to this, and it's becoming kind of a personal hobby, this sustainability activity, we are also trying to get as much as possible digital support from databases and statistics. Therefore, we developed this tool which is called Amiplexus. It's a tool which is trying to see the links between research organizations or the topics over the horizon, and Eureka, Eurostars type of project, and so on. And now we are even participating in this EU Datathon activity, where we want to link this type of activity with regional statistics. So if we are successful by end of October, I will be happy to present you a new application which is trying to see this cohesion follow-up of the investment into the R&D in individual regions. And of course, regions, as it was clearly shown, one of the potential customers. So if we are going to ask the regional office, regional innovation office, and we do that in our proposals and in our projects, we need to give them evidence. We need to give this evidence-based policy making. We need to show them that that type of region is having this ecosystem functioning, and for example, this follow-up region can have the same. But again, we need to show the facts. We need to show that we have enough absorption capacity. We have enough the type of customers we want to focus on. So this is just as an introduction. We have identified roughly 12 different revenue models for our projects. I'm not saying that only it's a digital innovation hub, but really there could be these pilot lines and OITBs and digital innovation hubs. And we are trying to combine them, seeing really what works. And some of them were clearly mentioned. So we have these brokerage fees. We have also some legal entities which want to take the liability for the work. So this is the kind of completely breaking the concept of RTOs which don't provide this liability. So why don't we make a kind of a bank which actually takes the risk? Of course, the risk has its own premium, but we are thinking also this direction. We are having all the types of promoting the trainings and education and making our own content, of course. All the investor relationships, managing these interregional funds, support to due diligence, and that type of revenues we can think of. And we are trying to always customize it to the very specific field, because as I was saying at the beginning, there is no one fits all. There's a different need in the electronics and medtech, for example, where we have big players, and for example, in flexible electronics or in the new materials where we have a lot of small players. So all the time we need to customize this. So that's a quick introduction. Maybe more, it's really one question I have is, do you see a successful performing organizations which adopted some of those and which we can say, yes, they really achieved operating in this networking type of in this type of network services, and they perform well?
Thank you, Rudolf. I think what I take from your feedback is that we really need to look into the services and to look at the markets much more, and what kind of revenue models can be out there, and to choose. I do see that as an issue, and we are just, because what I see is that we're just in the beginning of thinking about those post-project sustainability issues. And we need to further explore. And one of the questions from the audience, before I go into answering your questions, Rudolf, is the ratio between private and public. I do know that for those pan-European networks, there's going to be a lot of money that needs to be made available by the European Commission. How much? I wouldn't dare to say something like that. And it's also very specific. There are some services that are really well paid for that European to make, for example, that European connection. So the brokerage kind of element, that's pay for a lot. And you ask organizations, Sprint Robotics is, I think, one of the examples of creating a network where some of the services are really paid for, and they are quite successful. And it's about robotics, and it's international, so it's not only European, but it's international. I think there are some elements that can be used. But also in our midst, we have another representative of another organization that could be seen as a quite successful organization, and that's Blue Morpho. So Blue Morpho started as a European project, but they created a business out of that, and they are doing things like you can see here. They are trying to connect organizations together. But Olivia, perhaps I can ask you to give your presentation. So I don't know if you've got your own presentation, or if you want me to share that presentation, just let me know.
Maybe you can make me the presenter?
Ruud, could you do that?
Or you
Yeah.
do it?
Please. Ruud? Yeah, something's happening.
Yes.
Yeah, my mic was out. Yeah, here you go.
Do you see my screen?
Yes, Missy.
Okay, so hello everybody, happy to be here. Yes, so we have seen with previous discussion how important and challenging it is to define your services and the revenue models to reach sustainability. And what I want to discuss with you now is how to implement what we have just seen, how to make it happen, why it is important to make your voice heard in the global European ecosystem, which is very rich, and how to do it, how to work on your branding and communication strategy. Because branding and communication are obviously a means to get some visibility on your market and to reach your customers and potential partners. So this is a very important to have a clear idea of this branding strategy. So for people who are not professional in the communication sector, there might be a confusion on what is communication and branding, although they are very different. It may be stating the obvious for some of you, but branding is not a name, not a logo, not a graphic identity, not a tagline or a slogan, not the messages that the company is carrying out through its marketing strategy or what the project is carrying out through its marketing strategy. And this is neither the set of impressions generated by the core product or services sold, but this is the result of all of this. And especially as an innovation actions or our DIH, it is very important to have in mind that our success stories or the application experiment we have achieved and the demonstrator we have achieved are an important part of our branding strategy and should be implemented in it. So we all know that it may be hard to promote or valorize non-mature technologies or very emerging technologies, and that some technologies have a quicker and easier access to the market. So whatever our technical focus is, the success stories, showcases, or demonstrators must be part of our branding strategy. And to build a good branding strategy, you need to work on your mission statement and your value proposition, as Maurice already stated it. But to better understand what a mission statement is, I would like to play quickly a play on mission statement. I will present you some mission statement that you will try to guess who I am talking about. Our mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. You should know this is Google. Empowering others, our mission is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. Whose mission statement is it? This is Microsoft's mission statement. We are dedicated to the empowerment of man, to making personal computing accessible to each and every individual so as to help change the way we think, work, learn, and communicate. This one is more easy, I mean, it's Apple. And we strive to make the world healthier, more and more sustainable through innovation. Who can it be? This is Philips. With this example, we can see that branding is not easy. It's not easy to make you visible on the wide market when you are not part of the GAFA. So this is a challenge that we all have to tackle. So branding towards sustainability means define a strong mission statement and a strong value proposition. And the mission statement is your objective, what you want to achieve as an organization, and the value proposition is what you are offering to your customers that they consider as valuable. And if you want to build a strong brand identity, one of the first things you have to do is to work first on your mission statement to define what you aim at, and then implement it in highlighting your value propositions towards your towards your customers. A strong value proposition is a way to advocate what you have to offer towards potential partners or clients. And defining a strong value proposition is of great importance to gaining visibility, as I already mentioned it, and to be able to be identified by people who need your expertise and your business and technical support. So to do that also, you need to have a good knowledge of your market. You have to have a clear view of who are the clients you are targeted, or the potential partners you want to work with, and your assets and differentiation strategy. Your objective is to make your value proposition clearly identified by your various beneficiaries. So you have to know what is your market. And because market is diversity and multiplicity, and because you have various potential clients, you have to know them well, identify their specific needs for which you have specific answers. And whether your clients are the European Commission, the RTOs, industrials, SMEs, or startup, your value proposition is what enables them to differentiate yourself from another service provider. And this must be clearly stated to all of them. And we see that this is a challenge for all of us as DIH or innovation actions. So branding towards sustainability means having a clear idea of what our market is, and to promote your unique value proposition to further engage collaboration with users, and to promote your unique proposition and differentiation in the European ecosystem. This is what branding towards sustainability means. Whatever our technical focus or our geographical anchorage application areas, we all have to collaborate because we have the same objective. Reduce the risk undertaken by startups and SMEs to engage into innovative technologies. Overcome the challenge of the valley of death by facilitating their access to funding and to customers, strengthen their differentiations through new technology, and accelerate their go-to-market strategy. This is all what we are aiming at, and this is what the European Commission is expecting us to do. And we all show the same ambition, and for this, to reach this ambition, collaboration is key for all of us. So we have to play the game of the ecosystem in an already very dense and very rich environment, which is still growing. It is very important to build a strong branding strategy based on a strong value proposition, to differentiate yourself and be easy and get easier to be identified by SMEs, but also by the other DIH that are looking for partners. We know that one of the challenges we are facing is to find the right DIH to partner with. So each of our projects, DIH or innovation actions, have to develop a strong value proposition to be visible from the others, and visible from each innovative companies, and enter into the game of collaboration. We know that companies may have to contact several DIH to access the various expertise they need to reach their aim, and so we really have to foster collaboration. This is sometimes what the CSA can do to foster collaboration between several innovation action, but this is something we really need to foster within our ecosystem. The scheme here is based on differentiation, based on technologies, but we know that we also have strong local and regional DIH with strong value chains and strong specializations policies. So increase collaboration between regional ecosystem at the European level, enable companies outside of ecosystems to benefit from them anyway. So this is also what we all should aim at. And this interregional collaboration is a key to develop new value chains and new business models, such as circular economy, for example. This is one of the new business model that we need to foster. And if we combine a dense territorial coverage through regional local DIH and a rich variety of high-level technical expertise, as we can find in innovation actions, it is all the more important to make your differentiation visible for the SMEs and legible for them, but also for other DIH and other innovation actions to be able to find the right partners, and sometimes also to be able to find the right partners for the companies we are supporting. This is also sometimes a challenge for us. So as I come back here on the scheme proposed by Maurice at the beginning of this webinar, if we combine dense territorial coverage through regional DIH and a rich variety of high-level technical expertise, it is all the more important to make your differentiation visible. And we see that the value proposition here is key to know with who you will partner. So this is why you need to have a good value proposition and a good branding strategy. And this is all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Olivia. Maaike, can I ask you to give some feedback and give some response to it?
Sure. So I hope you can hear me well. So this is Maaike Rijman. I'm the coordinator of Smart for Europe project, Smart for Europe 2 now already. I will give you a few views, but also Hayden Thompson, who is the work package leader of sustainability with us. So first of all, thanks, and Olivia is also part of Smart for Europe 2. So Olivia, thank you for that presentation. And you haven't given me any questions, so I'm just gonna comment whatever I want. This is nice too.
Yes. Your carte blanche.
Yeah, so maybe just to say, I totally agree, of course, how important branding and communication and these things are, and also that this is a real challenge for us. So we have many initiatives or digital innovation hubs doing more or less the same thing. Nevertheless, we have an overall mission vision in helping SMEs in their digital transformation. There are brandings which are more overall brandings, like Digitizing European Industry Initiative, for example, or others that include many of them, or even DIHNET or DIHNET, how you call it, is an initiative which is kind of an umbrella over different ones, which then in terms of branding also includes more than the individual ones. And we also have that problem of like Smart Anything Everywhere is an umbrella over different individual innovation actions. I guess you all know that, but this doesn't make it much easier to find the right branding and the right level of branding also. And another problem is that we have very different target groups. As Maurits said, even the European Commission is kind of a target group in terms of recommendations, but on the other side, it can be the SMEs as customers. And for them specifically, things have to be clean and lean and understandable, and yeah, the information should come in a way that they can easily grasp it. So I think this is things, of course, everybody has to deal with, and it is as a challenge for individual innovation actions as well as for the initiatives. But we are following one aim. So what I would like to see in future, but this is yes, this is something maybe to kind of defragment all of this in a way that it will become easier for an SME to understand. I know it's a DIHNET aim also, but then coming to sustainability of brands, of course, the Commission does not give us 10 years, but like 2 years for such CSAs. And then the question also is, how sustainable can such a brand be if it kind of appears and disappears again? So I'm putting more challenges even here than Olivia. Also, Olivia had many hints on what can be done, but also challenges for the projects, of course. And I'm just going to touch another point that has been said in the very beginning by Maurits and also by Olivia now. Success stories for branding, the way I understood it, or the way we also do it, success stories are really the things that explain best what we're doing and how SMEs can benefit. So for the SMEs as such, I think the success stories, to include them in the branding and the mission and how things are done, are really an excellent way. Maybe not only for the SMEs, but specifically for them to really understand how they can benefit. I know we're over the time already, so I would like to give the word to Hayden Thompson, to the work package leader in our project, if he wants to add something to that.
All right, thanks, Micah. Hopefully you can hear me. It's been very interesting to listen to the discussions today and see the views of the different stakeholders and what they're all expecting. I sort of come at this from, I spent sort of 20 odd years working for Rolls-Royce, which of course is a brand which people have heard of. And the first thing really is it needs to be instantly recognizable and needs to be something that people really understand. And one of the key things about a brand is it actually increases the value of what you're doing in some way. So for instance, my company is a supplier, is on the preferred supplier list to Rolls-Royce. That actually increases the value of my company, which is a sort of a side product of having this increase in value. But it also increases the value for investors. So investors want to invest in you because you have this strong brand. And as we've heard today, there are many different activities going on within SAE and also many different stakeholders who could engage with this and engage in different ways with this as well. And so the question mark is how do we present them with something which makes it easy for them to connect to and invest in all of these activities, whether they're investing via membership screen, whether they're investing via grants or via loans or whatever into the overall thing. So what we need to do is try and create something which is a one place where people can come together and one brand around people can come together around. But you also need to let people know what to expect from you as well. So it's an expectation from a brand. So you've got lots of competing activities going on, and so you need to be able to trust someone. So the brand builds trust as well. So I think you end up with two key questions. One of them is, how do you want to be perceived by everyone else? And it may be you've got different stakeholders and you want to be perceived in slightly different ways to those stakeholders. But actually that's related to the mission statement. So Olivia introduced a number of mission statements. So one of the key things is to try and think of a mission statement, which is perhaps easier to digest than some of the mission statements we've seen. And the second one is how to build a reputation. And that all depends on trust. And as Micah was saying, it depends a lot on the success stories. If you can promote success stories, people begin to trust you. And so having this back catalogue of all these successes that you've had in the past also gives you lots of confidence and makes people more willing to invest and join in with the overall SAE community. So that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, thank you, Hayden.
Thank you for this comment.
I do think, yeah, Olivia, do you want to respond on Micah and Hayden?
No, it's true that this question of the communication on the success stories and the communication on the technology we are dealing with is very important, because we have seen that for the moment, at least in the innovation actions I am aware of, it was easier to address the questions and the challenges of society, of companies that were already quite innovative and quite familiar with digitization. But what the European Commission is expecting from us is to go further, or at least from the DIH, maybe to go further and reach companies that are less familiar with digitization. So the success stories and the pedagogy are part also of the pedagogy that we have to do toward the technologies that are here at stake and that are available, and what we can do with all those technologies. This knowledge gap with the SMEs and mid-caps, and this lack of awareness on what digitalization can means is a challenge indeed for all of us, and branding and communication should be also a mean to address this.
Yes, yeah. And what I would like to be, because Hayden, thank you very much. You raised two elements which are, I think, very important. And perhaps the most important, because we've got a little time left, is the reputation. So what I see, and that's very often it's a little bit lacking in the innovation actions today, because they're mainly focused on those 3 or 4 years. It's these 3 or 4 years is about building a reputation, and that's what the showcases, that's what the experiments are all about, building a reputation, because that adds value to the brand. And I think that's a very important conclusion. So thank you very much for this. I don't know, before I finish, I don't know if there are some other urgent questions that are out there. Please just open the microphone and ask those questions if you have them. If not, thank you for participating. Please know that we're going to send the presentations around, and you're very much welcome to join also the discussions on the DIHNET platform. You can find them in the presentations later on that we send. And hopefully this was just the beginning of the discussion about post-project sustainability, because as you, I'm sure, realized, this is a very complex thing. I'm sure you need the presentations to look and think about it again, but we are just in the beginning of thinking about creating post-project sustainability for our projects. So thank you, Rudolf. Thank you, Paula. Thank you, Olivia. Thank you, Maaike and Aiden. And Ruud, last words, famous.
Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy.
Thank you, and stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Rudolf.
Bye.